Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Howard Leppo, and I am an integrative nutrition health coach, and I specialize in perimenopause and menopause, but I also help others as space and time permits. So today, I want to talk about supplements, and this is part one of three because to do everything in one video would make it super long, and I like these to be short and doable. So today, for part one, we're going to talk about good and bad. Next week, on part two, we'll talk about women's health specific supplements. And then in part three, we'll talk about overall health supplements that anybody can do, male or female. So today, talking about good or bad. So it's important to note that when you choose to take a supplement, that you are clear on why you're taking it. Why do you need it? Okay, so we don't just read a book with 20 supplements listed, which is often the case if you read books around perimenopause and menopause. It's important to understand when you see that, that doesn't mean you go out and you buy those 20 supplements and start taking them. It means these might help you on your journey, but does not mean you need to be taking all of these. All of those is not real good. And I'll explain that here in a moment. So supplements, sometimes they're good because sometimes they're medically necessary. So to give you a personal story for me, I have a history of dangerously low vitamin D levels, which were confirmed through blood work. And so my doctor and I decided we were going to supplement that. And I was on high dose, sustained release, prescription strength vitamin D for a couple years. And through blood work and monitoring those numbers, I was able to whittle that down. And now I do a daily maintenance dose that's a lot lower to maintain my vitamin D levels at a safe and optimal level for myself. Okay, so that's an example of where supplementation can be good when you need it. Sometimes they're medically necessary. Sometimes we play doctor and we take supplements that we don't really need, or maybe they do the job, but we take them for too long. And so then that becomes something bad. So again, giving myself as another example, as I started to come into perimenopause, my liver enzymes were elevated. So non-alcoholic fatty liver can be an indication of that and is common diagnosis at this stage of life. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to clean up my liver. So I started taking milk thistle, which is supposed to be good for the liver. And yes, initially, those liver enzymes did come down, but not being aware or thinking things through, I continued to take milk thistle and liver cleanse supplements over a long period of time. And then that was no longer working. They were either staying the same or they were continuing to creep higher. And I'm like, why is this working? So then, being a researcher that I am, I read that sometimes long-term use of some herbal supplements can actually cause more harm than good, and particularly to the liver. And I'm like, interesting. I've got blood work coming up in the next 3 weeks. I'm going to stop taking all of these supplements with the exception of my vitamin D, my multivitamin, and my probiotic, the three that I take, and see what happens with my blood work. And lo and behold, my liver enzymes were all normal after that. So I no longer needed them because also during the time when I discovered milk thistle, I was also in the throes of changing my nutrition and lifestyle, right? So I was getting the clean food and everything, and I didn't need to take all of those things. My liver was cleansing itself. So by not taking those herbal supplements anymore, my liver was able to repair itself. And all the labs then for liver function and enzymes were then normal. So that's an example where a supplement can cause more harm than good. Okay, so you want to be mindful of that. You also want to be mindful that this industry is not regulated like medications are. So you're not really sure that what it says on the bottle, that is specifically what you're getting. Or you might get, well, use milk thistle, for example. So you might get some milk thistle in there, but maybe it's only 5% milk thistle and 95% full of fillers and crap. Okay, so it also pays to look at your labels, what's in there. and the other ingredients, looking at that, and looking for if it was tested by third party. USP is a good label to look for as well. So you want to make sure you're doing it as safe as possible should you decide to do it. Another thing, very, very important, and I'll use my grandmother as an example of where supplements with good intention can go bad. Now this was in the late 90s. She wanted more energy, so she started taking Siberian ginseng. And yes, she did get more energy. Unfortunately, that messed with her blood pressure medication and caused her blood pressure to go higher than it needed to be. And she had to stop taking the ginseng, and then everything went back to normal. So always, always check with your healthcare provider if you are taking any medications to make sure that the supplement that you are interested in is not going to interfere with something that you are already taking that's medically necessary for you. So for me, I mentioned a multivitamin. I believe in a multivitamin. I eat a relatively good diet. That's why I don't need to take all of this other stuff. But sometimes, some days I am not as good about it as others, totally honest. And that multivitamin, multimineral helps supplement and kind of fill in the gaps if I don't have a good nutrition day or whatever it is. So just a little bit on good and bad. Be careful. Sometimes they are medically necessary. Sometimes they're not necessarily, but might help in some ways in the short term. They don't always do well in the long term, depending on the situation. So just kind of be mindful of those things when considering to supplement. And if you have any ideas or comments on this, I would love to hear from you. Please post those below or drop me a line. Contact information is coming up. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Next week, we'll talk about women's health specific supplements. Have a wonderful day.